The movie begins with the story of Shizuku Mizutani. She's looking at an old photo of herself in a classroom from her younger days. Back then, all she cared about was studying. She didn't really want friends or love, but as time passed, something changed inside her. She started making connections with people, and one of them was Haru Yoshida, a guy known for being a bit wild. Now, let's go back in time to Haru's first day of high school. On that day, he got into a big fight and beat up a bunch of guys right there in the school. But after that big fight, Haru didn't show up much at school anymore. He missed important lessons and didn't get any new books. So the teacher decided to send a student to give him some guidebooks and textbooks. They picked Shizuku because she sat close to Haru in their class. Shizuku didn't mind, and she carried the books to Haru's house. But as she was heading back home, something unexpected happened. Haru hurried to catch up with her. He thought Shizuku was sent by the school to convince him to come back to school. Shizuku explained that she was just delivering the books, but there was a misunderstanding. Haru thought she wanted to be his friend, even though Shizuku wasn't so sure about it. As the sun went down and the school day ended, Shizuku was getting ready to head home. But then, Haru surprised her by asking if she wanted to go to a nearby cafe. She didn't know that this simple invitation would lead to something unexpected. While they were having their meal at the cafe, 3 of Haru's friends showed up and asked him for money. It wasn't the first time they had done this, and it seemed to happen often. What was surprising was that Haru never said no to them. He considered them his close friends, and he always helped them out. Shizuku started to realize that what Haru really wanted was true friendship. So she suggested that he should go back to school, where he could make real friends. But Haru didn't like the idea. He thought that his presence at school scared people. This difference in opinion led to a heated argument between them, with each of them getting more and more passionate. Their argument reached its peak when Shizuku accused Haru's friends of being fake and only pretending to be his friends to get his money. She believed it would be better for Haru to have no friends at all than to be fooled by such false friendships. Haru got really upset by what she said and spilled his drink on Shizuku's head in anger. But Shizuku didn't just sit there quietly. She threw her own drink at Haru, making him even angrier. In the heat of the moment, Haru chased after Shizuku, fueled by his anger. The next day, while Shizuku was busy with her classroom tasks, a student named Sasayan came up to her. He complimented her for throwing a drink at Haru the day before. Shizuku didn't really know Sasayan, so she asked him what he wanted. Sasayan explained that he used to go to the same middle school as Haru. He recounted a time when he saw some kids bullying another student on a baseball field. Sasayan wanted to help but didn't have the courage. It was Haru who stepped in and stood up to the bullies, saving the bullied student with his strength. After that, though, Haru mysteriously stopped going to school. Sasayan really wanted Haru to come back to school, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude towards him for what he did. What Sasayan didn't know was that their teacher had overheard their conversation and asked Shizuku to help deliver school materials to Haru once again. Without thinking twice, Shizuku agreed to help. She went to Haru's place and gave the books to Haru's cousin, Michin, since Haru wasn't there. As a way of thanking her, Michin invited Shizuku to play baseball with them. While playing, Shizuku had a realization. She remembered the stories about Haru getting into fights at school. It started to make sense that maybe all this time, Haru was fighting to protect those who were being bullied. Soon, Haru's friends showed up at the baseball field. They were quietly complaining behind Shizuku that Haru had stopped giving them money, and they didn't find him useful anymore. Shizuku got really mad hearing their heartless comments, as they were treating Haru like an ATM. Without hesitation, she went up to them and demanded that they show Haru the respect he deserved as a friend. In response, feeling hurt by Shizuku's advice, one of Haru's friends grabbed Shizuku by the head. But just as things were about to get worse, Haru showed up and put a stop to it. He warned them not to harm Shizuku, and they got scared, quickly apologizing. That marked the end of Haru's friendship with these fake friends. Afterward, Haru followed Shizuku as she walked home. But on the quiet street, he suddenly started crying. Shizuku thought it was because Haru felt betrayed by his old friends, but Haru denied it. He said his tears were tears of happiness. To comfort him, Shizuku gently patted his head and hugged him. She told him that a future filled with real friendships was waiting for him. Haru was touched by her kindness and promised to go back to school, looking forward to seeing Shizuku there. Then, unexpectedly, Haru admitted that he might have feelings for Shizuku. The next day, Haru finally returned to school and nervously waited for Shizuku by the gate. Despite his long absence, he seemed shy and stayed close to Shizuku. He felt uncomfortable when the teacher greeted him warmly, and he lost his patience when other students stared at him. There was a sense of unease in the schoolyard because Haru's behavior made people uneasy. But Shizuku remained calm and managed to keep Haru's erratic actions in check. From then on, Haru stuck to Shizuku like glue, following her everywhere, even going as far as the girls' restroom. After school, Haru invited Shizuku to have dinner at a restaurant, but she firmly declined. Her dedication to her studies was her top priority, as she wanted to do well in the upcoming midterm exams. She was determined not to let her grades fall behind her classmates. Their conversation was interrupted when Natsume, a classmate, asked Shizuku for help with her studies because she was struggling. Shizuku, as expected, declined, thinking it wasn't her responsibility. But Natsume didn't give up and pointed out that Shizuku had lots of online friends that she wasn't using. Natsume said she felt isolated, with only one close friend who invited her to an event. Haru got interested and offered to help Natsume with her studies if he could go to the event. Shizuku, however, didn't react and walked away, still focused on her studies over making friends. Time passed, and the day of the midterm exam results arrived. Natsume was happy because she got higher scores than usual, but Shizuku was shocked when she saw the results on the bulletin board. To her surprise, she was in second place. The top spot was taken by Haru. On that same day, fate led Haru to find a lost chicken wandering the streets. With a secret plan, he brought the bird into the classroom, intending to take care of it. He invited Shizuku to join him in this new venture. After school, Natsume, who knew about building chicken coops, offered to help. Haru and Shizuku, along with Natsume, went shopping to get the things they needed. But while they were at the supermarket, Shizuku accidentally bumped her cart into a student named Yamakin, who was shopping with 3 of Haru's old friends. Haru was worried that something might happen to Shizuku, so he stepped in to protect her. But Yamakin tried to calm things down and said that Haru's former friends wanted to make amends. Later, Shizuku, Haru, and Yamakin went back to the place where they were building the chicken coop. It was there that Yamakin revealed his connection to Haru from elementary school. From Yamakin, Shizuku learned about Haru's older brother, who had protected him when he was bullied as a child. In short, they'd all worked together and successfully finished building a chicken coop. It made everyone, especially their new feathered friend, really happy. As evening came, Haru walked with Shizuku to her house. Along the way, he got a message from Mikshin, saying that his brother was at Mikshin's place. Haru wanted to avoid meeting his brother, so he asked Shizuku if he could stay at her house. Shizuku, being kind-hearted, agreed, and they had dinner together with her dad and younger brother. Haru was curious about Shizuku's mom, and found out that she worked really hard to support the family because Shizuku's dad had tried and failed at 6 different businesses. After dinner, Shizuku got back to her studies and Haru couldn't help but wonder why she was so dedicated to learning. So Shizuku shared a childhood memory with him. She remembered how her mother had promised to take her to a fireworks festival and catch fish together. But her mother broke that promise because of her demanding job. It left Shizuku with a deep fear of being let down. Learning, on the other hand, had always been there for her, so she couldn't give it up. The next day, Haru went home and started reminiscing. He remembered how his mother used to be affectionate with him, patting his head and giving him warm hugs, much like Shizuku had done recently. In these memories, he saw his mother putting a pen in her jacket pocket. One evening, Shizuku ran into Yuzin, Haru's older brother. He had come to thank her for taking care of Haru. During their talk, Yuzin explained the complicated situation at Haru's home. Haru had been living with Mikshin because of problems that had led his father to kick him out of their house. But now that Haru was back at school, his father wanted him to come home. As Yuzin finished talking, Haru suddenly jumped up and seemed ready to protect Shizuku from what he saw as an intrusion. Yuzin tried to talk to Haru casually and invited him to go home. But Haru firmly refused and took Shizuku away. Once they were alone, Shizuku tried to convince Haru to have a meaningful conversation with his brother. But Haru was determined not to talk about his family. Inside, Shizuku was worried about Haru, but decided to let him be with his thoughts. The next day, Shizuku's behavior towards Haru changed noticeably. She started to deliberately ignore him. On that day, the students were busy making decorations for the upcoming school festival. Haru was impressed by his classmates' creativity, and he praised Oshima, the class president, for her great leadership skills. As the school festival day arrived, Haru and his classmates, dressed up in colorful costumes, getting ready to run a haunted house attraction. Haru wore a Dracula costume and was full of excitement, which was quite different from Shizuku, who seemed distant. Noticing the change in Shizuku, Natsume tried to talk to her privately. Shizuku shared her frustration about letting Haru into her life and how he had influenced her perspective. But Natsume saw it differently, thinking that it was normal for Haru to want to avoid being alone. After all, nobody really wanted to be alone. Natsume also mentioned that if Haru held Shizuku in high regard, it was natural because she was the person closest to him. However, Shizuku didn't seem to agree and left without further discussion. After spending some time alone, Shizuku ran into Yamaken. She opened up to him about her complicated feelings for Haru. She explained that she hadn't been talking to him for a while because she felt like his presence was suffocating and was affecting her ability to focus on her studies. Yamaken suggested that maybe her emotions were causing her unease. Shizuku disagreed, saying she was used to being alone and didn't feel lonely. Yamaken offered another perspective, saying that being around Haru might have shown her a loneliness she didn't know she had. After thinking about it, Shizuku thanked Yamaken and said that their conversation had helped her clarify her thoughts. Little did they know, Haru had been watching them from a distance. Later, Shizuku met with Natsume and apologized for her earlier rudeness. They made up and hugged, repairing their friendship. In the evening, the students gathered around a big bonfire to celebrate the success of the festival. They were dancing and having fun. Haru noticed something unusual between Yamaken and Shizuku. Without wasting time, he went up to Yamaken, feeling uncertain. He asked Yamaken if he had feelings for Shizuku. Yamaken didn't deny it, and this made Haru feel powerless. On Valentine's Day, which also happened to be Shizuku's birthday, something unexpected happened between Haru and Oshima. Oshima had planned to give Haru a Valentine's gift, but before she could do that, Haru changed the subject and asked for advice on what gift to get for Shizuku's birthday. Although Oshima seemed a bit unhappy, she still offered her help. She encouraged Haru to think of a gift that would make Shizuku happy. In the end, Oshima left without giving her Valentine's gift. On the same day, Shizuku was busy decorating her home for her birthday. She worked hard to prepare a feast and even baked her own birthday cake. But when she went back to her room, she found Haru outside her window. In a touching gesture, Haru gave her a pen, similar to the one that belonged to his mother. After that, Haru was invited into Shizuku's house, taking the place that was meant for her mother. After the celebration, Haru asked Shizuku to call her mother. Shizuku was worried about disturbing her mother's work, but she eventually made the call. The short conversation brought a lot of joy and brought them closer on this special day. Her mother promised to call back once she finished her work. Haru said goodbye and began walking home. But after a few steps, Shizuku caught up with him, her heart burdened by an unspoken truth. With sincerity and vulnerability, she confessed her love for Haru. In that important moment, they entered a new phase of their relationship and became a couple. Even though they were in different classes after being promoted, Shizuku and Haru's connection remained strong. Their relationship grew, going beyond just school, as they cherished the moments they spent together, whether alone or with friends. Then, one day, Shizuku and Haru found themselves alone in a room at school when a surprise visitor, a teacher, walked in. The teacher's question caught Shizuku off guard because she had just learned that Haru didn't plan to go to college. She was curious about his future without college. To her surprise, Haru had a dream of becoming a fisherman and catching tuna. His motivation came from not wanting to burden Mikshin by staying at his house. After school, Shizuku talked to Mikshin about Haru's dreams, hoping Mikshin could convince Haru to change his mind. But Mikshin couldn't do anything to change Haru's determined decision. It was made even more complicated by Haru's strained relationship with his father, because his family didn't know about his dream to become a fisherman. Soon after, as Shizuku was getting ready to leave Mikshin's house, Yuzen returned and warmly invited Haru to his birthday celebration. He pleaded with Haru to come, emphasizing how important it was for him to be there on that special day. Shizuku stepped in and convinced Haru to accept the invitation. Haru agreed but asked Yuzen to stop bothering him after the birthday event. On Yuzen's birthday, there was a gathering with many guests, and Haru came with Shizuku. However, there was a touching moment when Shizuku gave Yuzen a gift, only to find out that he had forgotten it was his own birthday. Yuzen shared that when he was younger, his father had always praised Haru's intelligence, making Yuzen feel invisible to his own father. He even wondered if he could be happy without Haru around. But Yuzen emphasized that these feelings were in the past, and he sincerely wanted Haru to come back home. In a surprising twist, Yuzen's father made a public announcement that he wanted to hand his company over to Haru. This sudden revelation angered Haru immensely. He had an outburst and quickly left the party, with Shizuku following him. Once they were outside, Haru grabbed Shizuku's hand and tried to find something to eat, but Shizuku refused and let go of his hand. She opened up about how she used to think they had something in common. Both of them wanted to overcome their weaknesses, but now she realized that Haru had everything: a family, intelligence, and wealth. Shizuku was struggling with feelings of envy towards him, a feeling that Haru couldn't seem to understand. At the same time, Haru felt that Shizuku didn't truly understand him. He was frustrated and believed that people were inherently flawed. With those words hanging in the air, he ran off, leaving Shizuku behind, trying to make sense of his sudden departure. The next day, Shizuku decided to apologize to Haru at school. But she couldn't find him anywhere. He seemed to be avoiding her completely. Time passed, and eventually it was graduation day. Shizuku's classmates were all smiles, taking pictures to remember their journey together. But in the midst of the celebration, the teacher asked Shizuku to deliver a box with Haru's things to Michin's house. Carrying the cardboard box carefully, Shizuku went down the stairs, but a mishap caused the contents to spill out. Seeing Haru's belongings brought back memories, and tears welled up as she realized how much she missed him. As Shizuku was leaving the school, she ran into Yamakin at the gate. In an honest moment, Yamakin confessed his feelings for her. Shizuku also admitted that she felt comfortable around him, being her true self. She compared this to the exhaustion she sometimes felt when she was with Haru. However, she treasured the moments with Haru and found happiness in their experiences, even in her thoughts about him. In the end, she gently turned down Yamakin's confession. Surprisingly, instead of getting angry or disappointed, Yamakin gave her a warm hug and wished her happiness with her decision, free of regrets. As the movie came to an end, Shizuku set out on a touching journey to deliver Haru's stuff to Michin's house. But before saying goodbye, Michin made a heartfelt offer: one final baseball game. Shizuku graciously agreed, stepping up to bat with unwavering determination. With a powerful swing, she hit the ball out of the park, hitting the home run sign. At that moment, a mysterious voice declared that Shizuku had earned a reward. Suddenly, beyond the safety nets, Haru appeared, holding an unusual gift: a fish. Throughout their shared history, Haru had always seemed to appear out of nowhere, a habit that used to annoy Shizuku. But this time, overwhelming happiness left her momentarily speechless. Haru then shared a surreal journey. He had traveled by boat to the Gulf of Mexico, thinking he'd never return. However, reality had set in, dispelling the illusion. In that awakening moment, he had called out Shizuku's name, realizing that her words during their first hug had given him hope in life. Those very words had guided him back to the present. Shizuku, who had once dreamed of achieving many things, had undergone a transformation. She now longed for just one thing: Haru. Overwhelmed by her emotions, she took action, sealing her affection with a heartfelt kiss, embracing the unique monster she had grown to love. So the moral of the story is, if you want to catch a fish, sometimes you have to hit a home run and embrace the unexpected monsters in your life.